All right. I'm thinking.
I think it's live now.
I think it goes live right from the
I think it
beginning.
goes
So yeah,
live.
hey, we're live.
Hi, we're live. And we are the Union. And I think we have real talk about personal growth. And I think today in particular, we're going to have pretty real talk. So today we have two really cool guests. One of them, I just love, totally love. But I love you too, Kevin.
I thought you were talking about me at first.
I know.
I was making funny faces and I was scared that you weren't talking about me.
That would be sad.
It all worked out.
No. Right.
We have Melody Markel and we have Kevin C. Ezeh. So Melody is a relational teacher and coach, a senior faculty member of the T3 Institute, and a slam poet. Language is her medicine, and she teaches individuals and couples how to have more easeful connection through more effective conversations in both personal and professional settings. So you get to have more of what you do want in a relationship and less of what you don't.
She's passionate. You don't. Sorry.
She's passionate about spending time in nature, cultivating community, and listening to good music. Her favorite song is Where's My Mind by the Pixies, of course.
That's right. Hi, everyone.
Kevin.
You will just read anything our guests send.
Hi.
That is very important information.
I think it is really important. That's how you're in rapport with your...
I majored in music. It's very important.
Okay. Likes long walks on the beach and cuddle.
It's really important. That's how you create rapport with
It's just like an iCupid profile.
Kevin is an artist, activist, and entrepreneur working specifically with housing and the homeless population of Los Angeles. He is also a path and desire coach, helping his clients clear an emotional, intellectual, and physical path around their desires so they can fully express their truth in the world. Keith Paolino is a Union show creator and is a master coach with over 4,000 hours of one-on-one coaching under his belt and has taught over 1,000 students on the subjects of sex, dating, relationships, and intimacy. His main purpose is to help emotionally adolescent adults grow into becoming fully expressed and integrated. They exist. Okay.
I mean, it's rare, but yes.
Okay. My name is Riach, and I am based in Silicon Valley. I coach startup founders and entrepreneurs increase their relational intelligence so that their investment connections create the success they are looking for. I'm also a filmmaker, and I tell stories that connect us as human beings more deeply. Today, we are talking about who we become under stress. Keith, can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, world. Welcome to the Union. So, who we become under stress. This week's topic was born out of that there's it's fall. So the topic thread definitely included a lot of transition and including some unexpected transition and transformation. And then as a practitioner, often we look at like what we call emergent behaviors, right? So like everything's fine. I've got relative awareness and control over my actions. I've got a certain amount of choice in my life. And I'm, whatever, up and down, happy, sad, like the normal range. But then something out of our control happens, and it can be something very simple. It could be just like you didn't get to decide what you had for dinner that night or something. But those feelings of powerlessness and lack of choice and someone else deciding for us are a few examples. This is maybe a little bit more personal than an overview, but have it be that I have behavior that's unconscious behavior that comes out as a result. And so we generally talk about those as stress behaviors. And it's a great way to start identifying some aspects of yourself that you want to get to know better, because there's something under there that we don't necessarily know what's operating us in that place. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so going around the room and getting just like a 1-minute viewpoint on the topic from your point of view. Melody Markel.
You always call me first, and I always say I don't want to go first.
Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
And today?
I still don't want to go first.
Kevin, that means it's up to you.
Okay. I actually thought you were going to go to me first, and I was like prepared.
I wasn't going to rescue her, but apparently Cindy was. So.
I'm a good person.
I can rescue myself, but I do like having Cindy in my corner.
I was going to put her under stress.
The topic is very relevant at the moment. There's just so many things coming at me from, whether it be work or things that I'm trying to do, and just remembering to hold space for it and clear space for it is challenging. Because you imagine that you're going to be the best version of yourself in those stressful situations, but your animal instinct kicks in and it's like fight or flight or freeze, and sometimes it's not up to you, but I guess that's the work, like trying to do the work to handle those situations better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you ready now, Melody?
I can be ready. I also have a question about Cindy.
Yeah.
Are you talking with an accent?
I'm working on a character.
Cool. Just checking. Okay. Who we become under stress.
By the way, we're speaking with an accent.
Whatever. You're like the kid at the birthday party that is like, it's tomorrow because it's after midnight. Which is not my joke. That's from John Mulaney. Anyway, this is super relevant for me also. This is the most, maybe in certain ways, the most stressed I've ever been in my life. This has been the hardest year I could have possibly imagined. I had major surgery, a couple car accidents, a couple breakups, identity level stuff also. And I think this past week, I've been more stressed than ever. And I hate it. I hate it. But I also think that there's really beautiful opportunity here. And I know for me, the moments when I'm really stressed are, it's an opportunity to kind of see like, what am I made of? And how am I willing to show up? How am I wanting to show up? What's the gap between how I am showing up and how I want to be? How can I kind of push myself to not just succumb to the stress, but also be gentle with myself? I think that being under stress is a really useful place to notice, where do we have good balance in our lives and where don't we? And where can we push ourselves and where can we be okay with just having a really messy house and staying under the covers for a couple of days if that's what our body wants, or not, or figuring out actually what I need is to go on a run, move my body, push myself a little bit. So that's been a big inquiry for me lately.
Thank you. Oh, we also haven't really said like why this thing is happening. So obviously Cindy's here in Austin. She's usually in the glamorous town of Santa Clara in California, but she's visiting this weekend. And so we thought, let's keep our Foursquare and also confuse people by doing this. So I hope it's working.
I'm sure everyone is thoroughly confused.
It's like meta. It's a meta interview.
Exactly.
Like,
I think it's a requirement to be on the show that you have to love meta.
Right.
Exactly.
That's true.
It's so true.
So true.
Meta for meta lovers only.
Okay. I really like what you just said, Melody, about like what you're made of, and like when you're under stress, like how do you know how to navigate? Like, because again, like to me, when I'm under stress, I feel like I'm compromised, right? Like, how do I make decisions from this place? And just like in a nutshell, last night I think my order and Dunkin's food order got mixed up. And so I got flour tortilla and tortilla, and I can't really handle wheat very well. So when we got home to our Airbnb last night, I was throwing up and really sick and crying my eyes out, and I think from that place, like mostly because Duncan was there, but I think I do it a little bit when there's no one around me. Like I just go into this like devastated child place. Like please save me. This hurts so bad. And then it's so difficult for me to not go into there's something wrong with me. I should have checked. Like how could I like eaten that taco and not realize it was flour tortilla? Like maybe I was like willfully ignorant. Like is there something wrong with me? And so like there's just like all these thought patterns that come up where I think when I like from this more resource place, like I'm just like, yeah, I would really like it if I don't go into that self-harming place when I'm stressed out. Like I would really like to actually give that under-resourced child person to like more compassion. Because I just don't go there. So that's a little bit of my share today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if, so on the Enneagram, I'm a 2, and so I demote. I always want to say devolve because it feels more accurate, but I demote to the 8, which is the boss, which, so a demoted boss is really a bully, and that's kind of the kind of main character that comes out when I am under stress, when I feel powerless, when I feel, especially as a 2, if I feel like I can't be of service in the way that I want to be of service, and especially as someone who grew up with a ton of codependence, my service has always been very manipulative in nature. So if I think I can't be of service in a way that's good, so there's something called empathy as a survival skill, where you like understand what other people need and then provide those needs in the hopes that they will then provide your needs for you. And that was the basis of my survival mechanisms for childhood, and then adulthood was a hell of a wake up call because people don't do that, and so that's been a big, kind of long unwinding of a survival mechanism, and that is when I feel like I'm not going to be able to show up in a way that is going to create enough people around me to get my needs met. That's a big one where it's like, oh shit, one, I'm going to have to meet my own needs. I don't know how to do that, or I've never been taught, which means, and then that all immediately spirals into like homelessness and death is basically my 2 favorite places to go. I'm like, have no home and then I'm going to die. So those are kind of like all of the, like, that's some of the places that show up around, like either like I try to like force people into how I want them to be to satisfy a feeling, like resolve those feelings of powerlessness, or I am, part of the how I feel powerless is when I don't think I can be helpful in a way that's actually going to get my needs met, and continue to try and kind of undo some of that. So yeah. Thank
stuff.
you.
Homelessness and death. All right.
Yes. So welcome if you are just joining us. We are the Union, Real Talk About Personal Growth. And today we're talking about who we become under stress with our amazing returning guests, Melody Markel and Kevin Ezeh. Ezeh. Cora told me how to pronounce it once. I think that's right. We had an argument because she thought it was easy, and I thought it was Ezeh, and she thought it was Ezeh or something. Like it was like we had it the opposite, and then she asked you, and then you told her, which we could have just not argued about it and instead fucking asked you in the first place. But who doesn't love to argue? I like to be right. So we have our usual like 40 minutes or so of open discussion. Anybody want to start?
I know it's going to be really good once we get going.
Yeah, I think it's just because especially with the topics that we talked about on the thread, it's just like, yeah. But I'll go. So The one I've been sort of sitting with is the kind of disappointment that came up for me around not getting accepted into the university that I applied to for grad school. And sitting with it for the last 2 weeks, or it's been a week, I think. It's Halloween. Halloween was when I got it. Sitting with it for actually not even a week. It's been like a few days.
I think you're pointing out something that can often happen when we're under stress, though, is that time seems to slow down.
Exactly. It on some level, like there's a lot of anxiety around, like, if it's something that I still want to do in the future, all the stuff that I'd have to do to reapply and resubmit, and that, just thinking about that stresses me out. So I like put it in the corner of some part of my mind. And then on another level, it's asking myself if I was trying to do this thing so that I can get some certificate for me to sort of validate the kind of work that I'm already doing, you know? And like asking myself, like one of the best tools I've ever learned around how to handle stressful situations is asking myself, how is this right? You know, like in what way was this situation in service to me? And also playing with, or on the flip side, am I using that as an excuse to help myself cope? You know, so it's playing with those two things. That's what I've been sitting with.
Yeah. Wow, I'm just like hearing, I think from some of our shares, like this kind of confusion state. Like, is this the more adaptive one? Is there another part of me that is needing something that, you know, like from the adult self would be like, oh, I just need validation from having a certificate or a degree. Like, what is that? What does that mean? And am I going to still want that, knowing that might be true?
I mean, I think it's hugely confusing, or it can be. Cindy, you just used that word, and I know that I've had a lot of confusion lately, and just not knowing. I think it's really useful to be able to hold multiple perspectives, which is something I hear you doing, Kevin, of like, how is this right on the one hand? How is this actually what is totally meant to be happening? But then also, am I just using that as a coping mechanism? And also, there are ways that it doesn't feel right. And I think that those parts want to be honored as well, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know that when I'm stressed, and certainly lately, I've got access to at least 6 different parts at any given moment. And they all seem to believe different things and seem to want different things. And it's a little tumultuous sometimes, going back and forth between the different parts, the different perspectives, which, like I said, I actually think it's really useful to be able to hold multiple perspectives, because I think that each one of them holds a certain wisdom, and it also lends to the confusion.
Yeah. So, like, in a way, I think when you're in this tumultuous stress, like, how do we hold like the bigger picture? Like, where am I going? How do I want to proceed? You know, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and like which one of these parts are like relevant in that discussion, and like how do I still honor the parts that aren't going to get what they want?
Are people familiar with parts work frame? Should I say a little bit about that?
Go for it.
Yeah, we talk about it on the show all the time.
We talk about it on the show all the time, but just in case people don't know, and I'm not that well versed in it, but just I hold it like everybody has different parts of themselves online. So there's the young one, there's the one who wants this thing in life, there's the one who wants this opposite thing, there's the angry one, there's the sad one, there's the excited one, there's the one who's like the wise one, who sees all the possibilities, there's the really like the one who's really stuck in the present moment, and however the feelings are happening right now. Like, there's all of these different kind of almost like beings living within us. And I think that's something I notice. There's a metaphor from one of my colleagues that I love, which is this idea of the car. like who's driving the car and who's in the passenger seat. And the idea is that we want our kind of larger self who holds all of the parts to be in the driver's seat. And then the smaller selves, the young one or the scared one or the confused one, can be in the passenger seat. And I know I run into a lot of trouble when I put my parts in the driver's seat. And that's been happening this week for me. I'm going through a breakup right now. So lots of moments of panic, lots of moments of confusion, sadness, anger, hurt, all of the things that I think most people are familiar with in terms of dealing with a breakup. And the moments that I put those parts in the driver's seat where I think like I am panicked and that's it. I am panicked. It feels, I can feel it right now. It feels like the whole world is going to come crashing down. I'm like looking at my ceiling, expecting it to start like caving in. But if I can reframe it as, oh, there's a part of me that is panicked, and just acknowledge it, and maybe even see what that part of me might need, put it back in the passenger seat, that's when I can start calming down a little bit. That's when the stress becomes a little bit more easy.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's really important work for you, because you're so strongly associated in your emotions, and that's one of the most things about you, that when it's like too far into an associated emotion that has you function less, I guess, like it's really good to step out and be like, this is just something that I'm experiencing rather than something that I am.
Totally. Yeah. And for those of you who know Enneagram, I'm an Ennea type 4. So 4s typically are really associated with their emotions. For other types, it's going to be the opposite. I know Cindy and I are both 4s. What up?
We were talking about you being a 4 before we got on today.
That's the best thing you can say to a 4. But for other people, just to kind of round it out, it's going to be the opposite. There are other personality types that are not so associated with their emotions. And it's kind of always like, oh, there is fear there. And it can actually be useful to step into it more like, oh, I'm scared, like that. So it's different people will fall in different parts of that spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone has like a different path of growth.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating the both of you sharing what you're going through in your life. I know we're a live show and it's out there in the public realm. So you sharing what is hurting you right now and what could potentially be shameful. Like I really appreciate you guys like putting it out on the table and being willing and vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it helps because it's easy to talk about, stressful situations from a place of, sort of protection, like there's a wall between it and there's no real like skin in the game, sort of, there's nothing there that you can actually point to, and you're just talking about it from like this higher place, of this is how you should be when you're stressed, versus like, I'm actually in the fire right now, and this is some of the stuff that I've learned through the burn,
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like I lose ready access to my internal self under stress. And then I don't have to, but if I want access to it again, it's breathing and distancing, and there's just a lot of management techniques around how to, the way that I understand stress for myself is that there is a like sensation generated by my nervous system that my conscious mind can't handle in that moment for whatever reason. And so anytime there's some kind of sensation level that my mind doesn't handle well, my main coping mechanism around it is a numbing, like it just kind of dumps it, and I feel very insulated. Like my conscious mind, I feel very insulated from my internal self. And my work has been to soften that. When you said a wall, Kevin, that was kind of what I think of in terms of like, oh, there's some. I mean, it used to be in my mind. It used to be this like steel fortress that was also somehow submerged at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and all of my life existed above water.
Mm.
Like you just felt so distant and inaccessible. And now these days it feels more like a room that I have sometimes trouble getting the door open to. Like this, there's a lot more access, and there's a lot more facility in terms of what I find in that room. But plenty often, I locked it and forgot about where I put the key or something. Like some access to it became more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that the thing that this reminds me of is something that Cindy had said a few minutes ago, and that I think you say pretty often, which is like, it's like, where do we go? Like, what is our natural tendency of where we go when we're under stress? And Keith, you said you kind of go to a numbing, or like you have less access, and it sounds like you've done a lot of work to have more access. I'm remarking on how much distance there is between submarine at the bottom of the Mariana Trench versus a room in a house, that like I feel really touched by that. But then, so you've got some numbing, and then Cindy, you've got some shame, sounds like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just about to talk about flapping behavior. Do you remember the conversation that we had with Robbie?
Of course.
And so, like, I mean, what it looks like day to day looks so different. Like, how in circles, like, there are some people, when you put attention on them, they get really like feisty and you divert the attention, or like the person who's putting the attention on you wrong. Like,
yeah,
right, you're not very good at it. Like, and like that in a way is like one of my flapping mechanisms. Is like you're not gonna go there with me. I don't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I think like as a whole on of like everything I do is just like I just really don't trust what's happening. And when I go under stress and something bad has happened, then I go into this immediate like I suck at life. I can never trust anything that I do or say, or trust any of my decisions. Like there's something wrong with me. Like again, it's like a shame piece, it's the not trusting piece. And I think we all have like different mechanisms, but like it's like one of my really big ones, and it's actually one of the biggest barriers I have to intimacy. Is like I just
yeah, I get shame too.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah,
it's a natural reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think my relationship with it has been shifting sort of recently. I think it's been shifting away from shame. It used to just be, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I did a bad thing. That's a big one for me. The phrase, I did a bad thing. I don't know exactly why. Something must have happened when I was a kid, but sometimes I just need people to tell me you're not bad and wrong and you didn't do a bad thing. So those are like the older stories. And sometimes I'll go there in a moment of stress, but more lately I think it's been more healthy humility of actually checking out, okay, what could I have done differently here? Like, what is my part to own here? And sometimes I take it a little bit too far and I own a little bit too much. And then the other person had to tell me that, don't take all of this on. This wasn't just you. I contributed here too. I've had people say that to me recently. So I'm still like, I kind of feel like I'm a toddler learning to walk with this. Like, how do I bring a healthy level of humility to those moments where in the past I've had a lot of shame?
It's really difficult. And I think this might be true with a lot of practitioners who, I mean, the reason why we're on this journey of personal growth and integration is because we're taking a lot of responsibility for our own lives. And I think what we tend to do is like we don't just clean our side of the street, but we make sure we clean other people's too.
Oh my God. When you just said we're taking a lot of responsibility for our own lives, I just like, there's so many people lately have said to me, like, you take too much self-responsibility. You need to chill out. Like, you're okay. Don't keep doing that.
Yeah, no.
And I think it's so true. Like, we want to take all the responsibility because we're doing this work. We take 200% responsibility some of the time.
Yeah. And it's so natural because, you know, as children, if mom or dad does something and we're like, oh shit, like, do I choose to make them bad or wrong? And then I have no sense of agency, like no, like because I'm so small and like they're my caregivers. Or do I make myself bad and wrong so that I have some sort of sense of responsibility, and then one day I could change it so that this situation will be rectified. So like naturally as human beings, we want to take more responsibility because then we actually have a little bit of sense of control over the situation. So it's
Totally.
but then it becomes epidemic, and then we can't actually look at the collective of the system and say, actually, I didn't get raped because I wore a short skirt. It's because there's something wrong with the system. I'm just making an example. But
It's funny that you're bringing this topic up. It's funny. I remember I used to do this thing when I was younger, when like it would have nothing to do with me, but like when two people were arguing or like having some kind of confrontation, I would just feel like it was something that I had to do to like mediate between the two. Like it was my responsibility to make sure this thing was resolved, you know?
Yes.
Like I would take it on as like my own thing. And you know, like just heaping that responsibility on top of myself, you know? And it would have, the confrontation would have nothing to do with me, you know? It was just—
Are you a 9?
I'm not even sure of the chart you guys are referring to.
Oh, good information. Cool. We could just throw that out.
What is that? What is that?
Oh, the Enneagram. I can put a link, but Melody,
okay.
We'll talk about the Enneagram is a personality typing system that I think is really fabulous, and a lot of people who I hang out with, including these two, seem to think it's pretty fabulous. And there are 9 main types, but then depending on how you look at it, it's actually 27 types or it's actually 54 types. Part of what I really like about it is that it just, there's so many layers to it, so you can kind of keep going deeper and deeper with it.
What are the characteristics of a 9?
9s are the mediators. They're the peacemakers. They really like things to be copacetic. They don't really like conflict. They're very spacious. They've got a lot of space. A lot of times 4s, which is the type Cindy and I are, can sometimes gravitate to 9s because we've got a lot of emotion and a lot of like stuff happening. And the 9s are like a wide ocean that can hold it all.
Interesting. I think my partner might be a 4.
All right.
That made a lot of sense just now. Okay.
Yeah, this is a common experience when people start learning the Enneagram. It's like, oh, things make sense all of a sudden. It's something like one of my colleagues likes to say is that it's not showing us, it's not putting us in a box. I think people have a critique of personality typing systems that they might be putting people in a box. What he says, and I really like this, is that it shows us the box that already exists and helps us to get out of it.
Yes.
So we have more choice.
Yeah.
No choice.
Yeah, I see it as like, because there's so many of them, right? And there's so many different kind of typing systems that are available. And I'm just a huge advocate for like whatever way you can learn to see yourself better, more accurately, more truthfully, create greater awareness about who we actually are showing up as versus who we wish we were showing up as, who we like to think we're showing up as, is just more information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, if we'll ever get through a union without talking about Enneagram.
Well, like for me, like the Enneagram has just been like more like freakishly more resonant with me than many of the other ones. And there's the link that Cindy just put in the comments is one of the kind of main authorities on the Enneagram, and they do like a relationship compatibility, like your type and the other person's type. And I read it with my ex, and we read it in front of a group of our friends. And it just felt like somebody had been following us around for the last year or two. Like it was just so kind of freakishly accurate that it was really kind of creepy in a way. But I do recommend it. I mean, I think it is just one of the more nuanced and accurate ways to learn more about yourself.
Yeah, and I love bringing it back to our topic. Like it actually talks a lot about like what your type does specifically.
Yes.
Right.
And like how do you
disintegrate?
Are you the type that needs to ground their body more, which is what Melody and I need to do more of? Are you a type that needs to connect with others and not isolate? So like they give you resources that is specific to your type. It's really helpful.
It is disintegrate, isn't it?
I'm very interested now. I'm very interested to see what this is now.
Cool.
Hashtag worth it.
We would talk about the Enneagram endlessly if we don't stop right now.
Good. I want to say something about our topic, which is not really related to the Enneagram, but I think if I don't say it, I will be sad. I'm remembering right now. I just want to do a big plug for movement, like moving our bodies when we're under stress, and also being outside. I think it's so easy to, when we're under stress, burrow in, want to not leave our bed or not leave our house. And I think it makes it worse. I really do. I don't know of a type where it's not a good idea to move your body or go outside. And I've been moving my body like crazy this week. And there's something is happening that actually, like, I don't like how much stress I'm in, but I love how much I'm moving my body. I did a big hike 2 days ago where normally I have to take a lot of breaks because it's kind of steep, and I live in Colorado, so we're at altitude. And if it's like a difficult hike in Colorado, it means it's actually a difficult hike. And I did it the other day. I didn't take any breaks. Usually at the top, I stop. I didn't stop. I was just like, oh, great. And then I went back down. I could have done it again if I had wanted to. I did 2 bar classes in a row yesterday, and I felt amazing. And just, I know it's like, as much as I can just keep moving my body and just keep letting things cycle through me, I'm going to move through it that much faster, and I'm going to be that much healthier along the way. And even if there's just small moments of stress, like my most recent ex, not a lot of times, but if we would get into some sort of an argument or some sort of charge would happen, we're getting stressed with each other, I would say, I need to pause, I need to take a little walk. And I would just kind of walk around the block and come back. And that, it helps. It really does.
I mean, like what you're saying sounds very resonant to me right now. I mean, because the way I experience stress is, it's like like the energy that's being generated from that stimulus, whatever that is, that's causing that stress. Like in a way, the body doesn't want to feel it. So then a lot of times, like I kind of clamp down on it, and so it's like trapping the energy inside your body. You know, so like moving sort of like forces. Not even so much forcing, sometimes allows the energy to just move through you in ways that it wasn't naturally going to do if you were stationary, you know? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I love the distinction between the clamping down versus the letting it move through. Yeah.
Because I can imagine certain Enneagram types, like type 7s, who move as a way to not feel their emotions. So like different type of activities. Also, telling, I guess.
Distractions.
Not that you did the plug Melody, because I think it's like one of the biggest things. I think for me in particular, it's really easy for me to withdraw inside my own body and not feel things. I didn't look at this. It's like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. Keith, your brow seems quite furrowed.
Yes, I was responding to something. Not to anything you're saying.
Cool. There's also something I've been noticing, which is that sometimes the stress is so big that I need a little bit of help regulating my body. And for a long time, I thought that wasn't allowed. Like, I'm the type of personality where I think you got to feel it, and you got to feel it fully, and you got to let it move. And like, that's the way to do it. Like, go hard in the paint, feeling it, and moving through it. That's it.
I like that analogy. Go hard.
And I was such a mess a few days ago. I was talking with our friend, or some of us have a friend, Kevin O'Malley, and he was like, drink some wine. And I don't want to say that that's the right move for everybody, and it might not be wine, but just like sometimes, and I am somebody who has a very healthy relationship with alcohol, and I feel grateful for that. But I think sometimes it's okay to just need to get yourself a little bit more regulated in whatever way that is, whether that is wine or it's just like a bubble bath or just something like actually doing whatever you can to just straight up calm the system down. I think that's also a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about that for a second, because I think that it's like, the opposite of crazy is still crazy is a big theme around here on the Union. And we talk a lot about how challenging it can be to feel. I don't think we talk very much about the opposite of that, which is like overwhelm, right? Like being overwhelmed or overloaded by one's feelings. That there's a kind of like feelings paralyzation that can happen, and that isn't that there's a kind of numbness in that as well, right? And so I think it's like, to me it's all about finding the middle, like what's the healthy middle.
Totally.
And so if you feel like drowned by feeling, adding more masculine, adding more activity is a great way to move yourself towards whatever that middle is for you. And then if you are like numb through work and achievement, or always doing and not quite ever being, then the healthy middle, you would do more stillness to get to the middle. You aim at the other end of the spectrum to get to the middle, right? And obviously that's just one example of what some polarities are and what the middle would be for those. There's endless numbers, variations of polarities. And the hard part for me can often be identifying, what polarity am I currently at, and is it healthy or unhealthy for me at the moment? To me that's like, and under stress a lot of that facility just fucking goes away. Like, I'm just like, I don't care where I'm at. There's not a lot of nuance under stress. There's just fuck you and leave me alone, or like, I will get it done no matter what, and I don't care how it feels to you, or
or me.
Right, especially that.
Yeah, I feel like I have like a difficult time. Like, I know we talked about a bit about confusion and like how to regulate most adaptively, and like for me it's actually inside connection. Like, do I reach out to people, or do I like learn how to self-regulate? Do I really need hugs right now, or am I just like being in victim mode? So like it's really difficult for me to like separate that, especially in relationship with others, mostly because I think my trauma is inside relationships. I'm just like, I'm just gonna be a child now, but I can't be stuck in this place, like all of that. So I'm wondering what it's like for you guys when it comes to like reaching out to people, or is your tendency to reach out to people? Is your tendency to isolate? Like, where are you on that spectrum?
I feel like I'm a solo sufferer.
I feel like that's like a superhero, but like, but like a sad one.
It's sufferer. But it's funny. Like, I think it's no coincidence that one of my favorite superheroes is Batman. It's like
totally.
There's just like this way I like to like brood in solitude, and like just work out all my shit, and then like come back to the world as like like refreshed in a way. It's like I reload over here and then come back into the world. But I feel like a lot of times I would benefit from connecting with people in those places, and I have, and it's been rewarding. But my default is to suffer in solitude. Yeah.
That makes sense. I love the question. I recently was given this distinction that has really been helpful for me, and it's right around this topic, because I noticed this week I've had a very hard time being alone. Like, being at home alone has been the scariest thing to me, and which is odd because I love being alone usually. Like, I live by myself on purpose and have for many years. I like being solo. I'll go and take myself on dates. I do things by myself, but when I'm under a lot of stress, I need to be around people. And I didn't exactly understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And what one of my colleagues offered to me was this idea that people ground me in the present moment. And what's actually happening right now is like, oh, I'm on a podcast with Keith and Kevin and Cindy, and there's a lot of safety and comfort in that. If I'm by myself, when I'm under a lot of stress, I go into future, I go into past, I go into all the ways that I'm not doing it right, or I'm not going to be as good as I could be, or I'm going to fail, or I did fail, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I just kind of panic or want to hide or just ignore all of it, and I don't get anything done. So it's useful for my system to remember, like, hey, this is what's happening right now. And the way that I know, like the easiest way that I know how to do that is just to be around other people. There was a moment a couple of days ago, I was so panicked and so overwhelmed, and I called 10 of my friends in a row and nobody answered, which is totally fine because we all lead busy lives, including Cindy. And we got on the phone eventually. And I was just sitting there like in a complete shit show of panic.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I remember this thing, like, I just need to be around people. Doesn't matter what that looks like. And I found the one little spark within myself that could get myself to stand up and put on shoes and get in my car. And I drove to Whole Foods and I just walked around Whole Foods just to be in the same space as other people.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. For me, it's usually a cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Coffee shop.
I don't need to talk to anybody. I can do my work, but I just need other limbic systems in proximity for me to feel more sane.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I'm agoraphobic, so it's much. I actually literally, if I don't have Duncan to go to the market with me, like if I need to go grocery shopping, it's really difficult. And like that's why I've been online shopping, because I just I don't want to go out. I'm scared to go out, and I just immediately all my sensors open, and I'm being judged by everyone, and so it causes more stress for me to go out. That I'm easily an isolator when I'm under stress, and so I would not leave the house for a week. And
so most of your shopping is done online?
Yeah, I get my groceries.
Wow.
It's bad. I really want to learn how to be out in the world on my own, because it just gives me so much anxiety to go out without anyone around me. I can't go out on dates by myself. As soon as I heard that melody, I was like, I'm so fucking jealous. That's what I want to do. I want to take myself out to dinner and go to the movies and do something by myself, but I can't do it. I'm so terrified of being out.
I don't think I've ever met anyone that was agoraphobic. So have you ever been to Burning Man or any kind of festival that's
She went to Burning Man once.
How did it go?
I was attached to the person I went with, and he didn't like it, and I put a lot of stress on my partners because they want their solitude and they want their agency and autonomy, and I cling on. Don't leave me. So I do a lot of that, and it's a huge strain on my relationship.
Wow,
how is it to share that?
I feel sad. Not only is it a strain on my relationship, it's really a strain on me. I can't go out and do things on my own. It really inhibits and limits my potential.
Wow.
Yeah, I noticed. I feel that
way before.
Hearing that.
So in the last 5 or 6 years, I have part of what's come from doing the work of healing my nervous system is getting into relationship with my feelings of anxiety. And then prior to that, so I'm 45. So for the first 40 years of my life, if you had asked me, are you an anxious person? I would have, not only would I have said no, I probably would have laughed. I just have used a gregarious, big, outgoing personality as a means of buffeting the world back by through protection. And so coming into relationship with my anxiety, both on a like small level, has been very educational. But the biggest kind of shock to me was the understanding that I have in groups. So I wouldn't have ever thought of it in terms of, I mean, I've done some research on agoraphobia, and I would not have put it in that terms, but I definitely experienced a lot of that, like a lot of what Cindy was talking about, and just a lot of like I don't want to, like, the idea of going to a big festival just doesn't feel good in my body at all. Like, it just feels like a bunch of people I have to watch out for their clumsiness not getting into my system, essentially. And that kind of speaks to the stress of not having, like, not growing up in a functional system where boundaries were learned and where I became responsible for my own boundaries. So my system is just kind of, it's like the throttle is just wide open all the time, and so then I'm only able to use the brakes to control the speed of the car, and then those wear out, and then I crash. Or like, there's just like this idea that I'm around people and I don't have the ability to regulate the openness of my own system, and so then everybody's garbage just makes its way in, whether I like it or not. And so that's how I experience like anxiety in groups, is like, oh, have I gotten any better? Now it's more, aware of like, have I gotten any better? Have I actually gotten any better at regulating? Like, there's that doubt of regulating my own system to be out in the world and not have to process everybody else's garbage.
I wonder about that a lot, actually. Sometimes I wonder.
Kevin's wondering, guys.
Like, I wonder. Like, I wonder what is actually mine,
right?
Like, especially in those large groups, I'm like, because sometimes I'll feel like a swelling of like anxiety and sensation, and like, when I left this morning, I was not feeling like this. Is this mine? Like, right. And it's a strange, or are they like inciting that inside of me? Like, is this situation creating that inside of me, or am I feeling someone like two persons over?
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I don't normally talk a lot about orgasmic meditation on the show, but it is and has been my main practice for the last 10 years. And I will say one of the main benefits that I experienced from being a stroker in orgasmic meditation is learning where do I begin and end, and where does the world begin. And it really began at the end of my fingertip in the stroking. And so there was that distinction became so much more clear in terms of what's mine and what may not be mine. I don't know it's not mine, but may not be. And I credit my own practice for that in a way.
For sure.
I think that's been a huge one for me. I needed my old boss to tell me over and over again. We'd be in staff meetings and I would come in feeling fine, and then something would happen and I would get flooded with emotion. And she would say, "You are somebody who holds on behalf of other people. This probably isn't yours." And it's been a practice for me for about 6 years to start figuring out, like you're saying, Keith, like, where do I start and end, and where does the rest of the world start and end? And is it okay if I take something on? And can I created a mantra for myself around this very thing, which is, may the world wash through me and may I be nourished by its beauty. With the idea of just like, okay, it can come through me. That's okay. And it can go. And if there's something that's actually serving me, it can stay. And if not, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And there's actually something in our practice too, Melody, in circling, where I know as a facilitator, so there's three parts we can go into. There's one which is self, like I have no like internal referencing to another person's nervous system. The other one is switch, which is I'm going to go into the other person's nervous system and I can see the world from their eyes and all of that, and breathe through their lungs. And then there's the last one, which is shift, which is I'm still in touch with my body and my sense of self here while I go over there and check out their nervous system, and from here report back what I'm experiencing. And that's really kind of like the sweet spot when we are navigating like relationships or just being in connection with other people. And it's just really difficult because I'm a natural switcher. I'm just like, wow, things really suck right now and I don't know why. Oh, it's because I'm over there. Like, and you're not doing very well, so I'm not doing very well. And so it really is a practice of like learning how to like be associated inside of myself while I'm connecting to others.
Mm-hmm.
Or being in a system with this chaos of other things happening.
Yeah, definitely. Have you guys heard about the concept of a highly sensitive person?
Mm-hmm.
You told me.
I give you that book today. Yeah.
I did it.
I want to spread the word about this. It's HSP for short, highly sensitive person. And this distinction is one that really rocked my world. And I think it really rocked Cindy's when I offered it to her. And it's this idea that it's about 1/5 of the population, 20% of people are HSP. And I am and Cindy is, and our nervous systems are actually biologically different than the other 80% of the population. And this is a term that was coined by Carl Jung, I believe, through studies that he did. And we get overwhelmed more easily is kind of the crux of it. We're more easily impacted by stimulus that comes from outside of ourselves. So that could be other people in their nervous system, could be sounds or sights or proximity of objects or people to our bodies. It could be a whole host of things.
News feeds.
What?
Social media news feeds.
Social media news feeds, right? Whatever kind of input, any sort of input can be overwhelming to a much, much higher degree than for other people. And there's a whole book about it, and this is kind of a very, limited description, but I know it's really helped me a lot, in part because we were talking earlier about Enneagram and just having more information. This has been key for me. A lot of times HSP gets misdiagnosed as introverted or shy because people need to be by themselves more, because basically what happens is when we get overstimulated, we just need to cut off all stimulus and just be alone. So for years, I thought I was introverted. Years. And I also thought I was an HSP. I know HSP introverts. I'm not like them. I'm very extroverted, like very extroverted, but I'm also an HSP, which is really weird and kind of a little contradictory. So I love being around people and I love the input. And like I said, like I was under stress and it's like, okay, go to Whole Foods, just like be around people. And then there are these moments where it's like, that's enough. Like that's enough for right now. And I need to be in a room or out in nature by myself. And I don't want to see another person. For me, a lot of the overwhelm comes from people and their own stuff, like we're talking about their own nervous systems and whatnot. So it's like, I need my own music, or I need my own nature, or I need my own something just to kind of get back to baseline.
Yeah, and that's so tremendous for people. If you're resonating with being an HSP, it's like, sometimes it is like being with other people feels like you're getting fire hosed.
Yeah.
With something that's not yourself. And it's so easy to disconnect from yourself and be very vastly at the resource on that. So it's been really helpful for me to just be like, okay, it is woman cave time. Like I need to go in my space, and I need everyone to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I've been noticing for me, as I've been doing like more sensation practices and like increasing my capacity for that throughout the years, the big one for me is sound. Sound, like if it's like too loud or like a very sharp sort of, like it can disrupt my whole system.
Yeah.
It can like it could literally, it's like Superman and kryptonite, like just the way it just I can malfunction. I literally could, based on the sound that you're sending out.
My boss is the same way, and he will not, our entire staff team knows about this. He will not let us do any sort of opening of like a chip bag or any sort of ruffling or like clicking our pen, like any of that. It's a huge no-no, because he, like you, it's like his total kryptonite. He just can't, I have this thing I said earlier about like believing that I'm bad or wrong. One time he said to me, what if it were like you just had somebody telling you that you were bad and wrong over and over and over again? What if, like, can you understand now what this, having like these sounds to me is like? It's like that much of a impetus to him.
Yeah.
Well, I want to note that we are at the top of our hour.
Sad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're like actually over time.
Yeah.
Are we? Oh shit.
It's an interesting topic.
There's
it's a
so
really good
much
one.
here.
There's so many like categories of things that
Totally.
we branched off in.
And it's in this particular collection of folks is really, I mean, we were just willing to go into all the nooks and crannies of it. So I really appreciate that. I would love it if we took maybe just like 30 seconds each, if you have one, to do like a final thought, like something super brief and potent about the topic, and then we'll give you we'll ask you about your offerings.
Can I say something before we do? It's interesting that you're about to jump in because this is kind of the topic of what I wanted to say something. I just wanted to name, in the vein of healthy humility, that I really like you, Kevin, and I really like what you bring. I've followed you on Instagram for a long time and feel really gifted to get to have been on the show with you. And I think the thing I want to own is I've often been on the show with men who have a lot to say often and say it loudly. And I've sometimes felt a little like, I got to get my voice. I want to say a thing. And I'm a little scared that I did the opposite of that here, because I'm so used to just like having to speak up on the show. And I'm a little scared that maybe you didn't get as much airtime as, looking back, I would have liked for you to have gotten.
Oh no, it flowed perfectly for me.
Okay.
It's
cool.
I'm one of those people that if there's something that I really need to say, then I'll say it. But if there's like, I wouldn't just say something to kind of fill space. Like that actually bothers me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, good. I like hearing that. Thank you.
Thanks for checking in, Melody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I want to say, actually, I know about you for a while too, because I was on the inner circle. So I remember hearing you on a podcast with Garrison one time, or not Garrison.
Not Garrison.
It was a church.
Yeah, John Church.
John Church. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's profile. Anyone can speak up.
I'll say, for me, it's stress is starting to feel like one of those things where I'll never fully master it, but continuously I keep learning more and more parts of myself as I kind of jump into different fires and different arenas in my life. And it's a pain, but it's also very rewarding in a way, because there's for me, there's nothing like finding out more of who I am. I feel more spacious and I feel more full, like whole. There's a lot of wholeness that can be achieved and realized through stress. So it's a gift and a curse for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
For me, I think it's important for everyone to, what I want people to hear is that everyone changes under stress, and no matter how much work we've done or who we think we are, that emergent behavior is there waiting to kind of rise up out of the surface to the surface, and that's okay. Like it's another part of what makes you human. Part of things that we don't have a lot of control over, and that mostly the thing that we can do is continue to try and gain awareness of what that is, and to be curious and to be kind to ourselves in that process of learning more and understanding more. So
I love what you just said, that everyone changes under stress, and that's okay. I think that's a really good reminder. I think that the gentler that we can be with ourselves when we're under stress, the kinder that we can be to ourselves, whatever that might look like to us. And we probably each have to learn for ourselves what that looks like. I think the more easily we can return to what we might think of as our normal selves. And I also think that, like you said, Kevin, it's a gift and a curse. I think that it sucks. It sucks to have stress. And that's where the growth comes from. Like, that's where stress is, like, pressure is another term for stress. And I sometimes think of alchemy, and like the rock under pressure gets turned into the diamond or whatever. It's like if we never have any stress, if we never have any grief, any sorrow, then we're not actually going to be able to do the things that we need to do to really find those places of true ease and beauty and grace.
100% what you just said. I have been looking at stress in the last few months as an opportunity to notice and take care of my little one and resourcing her, because the reason why I act out in all the different ways that I do when I'm under stress, when something really, really horrible happens, is I think I have those reactions because that little part of me was never resourced when I was little. Yeah. So that's why I'm acting out in that way. And so it's really, really, really helpful if, like, there is a part of me that has one foot in being an adult, holding the little one, going, "You're okay, and I love you, and I'm here for you." And if you need to kick and scream, if you need hugs, if you need whatever it takes, like I'm not gonna wrong you or shame you for that. Like, this is what you need right now. And it's been a real big practice for me because I'm just so harsh on myself. So that little one just really needs a lot of care.
Totally. I've been doing that with my little one, and my words for her are, "I'm your best buddy, and I'm never going to leave you." She really likes that.
Well, on that note, so we would like to. So can we just? We're so over time here. Can you do like 5 words, and then you guys can just put links in the comments to your website, to your wherever you want people to go to. So like 5 words to describe your offering.
I'll say sharp. I'll say 5 words. That's
this backfired. It was supposed to take less time.
Right?
I got mine. Are you guys ready?
Cool. Yeah.
Come find me on Facebook.
Great.
Oh, I didn't know we can do that. I thought we were doing like.
You are a fully autonomous being, Kevin. All I can do is suggest an offer.
We only need a little bit more permission given.
I was like trying to find like adjectives, like.
I used to be like you.
There's an evolution.
All right, y'all. Well, with that, we'll say thank you so much for being on.
Wait, I have to quickly say, Melody is actually going to be on our Facebook group. I'm gonna.
Oh right.
Oh right.
It's going to be there at the top of the hour. Is that?
Yep, top of the hour.
Yeah. And so one of me, Cindy, or Cora will be monitoring to make sure that everybody who wants to join the group and see the video with Melody, the one-on-one with Cora and Melody, will approve you. So just know that it might take a second to get in, but yes. Yeah.
Yay.
Right.
Come see Melody.
Yes. All right. Excellent. And on that, we're going to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.